I also think it's important to look at all the forces that are working against making those simple cuts to fraud, waste, and abuse. Look at CBO, who has worked now for decades against any effort to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. Every time that there's an effort to reform or cut spending on anything, CBO's specific data is positioned to work against those reforms. But look at the media, look at Democrats, and look at every left-wing group that lines up to say they're hurting the poorest among us when these reforms are actually intended to help the poorest among us by making sure that the small resources available to them are not being divvied up among people that shouldn't have access to them, like illegal immigrants and able-bodied young adults. Take a look at this clip from Ayanna Pressley.
I mean, seriously, the only people who benefit from this bill are toy spaceship billionaires like Elon Musk and Donald Trump himself.
As you hear Democrats try and frame their arguments about Republicans only helping billionaires, consider the last 4 years. What Democrats did when they were in power. One thing that we have tracked really closely here is their efforts to divert your tax dollars not to lower income Americans, but to their own donor class of millionaires and billionaires, particularly at places like solar companies. I will, until the day I die, continue pointing to the AP article on a company called First Solar. First Solar worked with Chuck Schumer to get access to the rulemaking process. First Solar had investors tipped off about secret negotiations going on in the Senate about the Inflation Reduction Act. Those investors, who are Democrat donors, then bought up shares of First Solar that made them billions of dollars. That's what Democrats spent the last 4 years focusing on. Inflation went higher. No lower income American benefited by anything that Democrats did for the last 4 years. On the contrary, they saw the biggest tax hike of their lives because of the inflation that Democrats wrought upon them. So when you hear Democrats say Republicans are only looking out for the rich, it is so important to look at what Democrats did for the last 4 years and try and find anything they did for lower income Americans. Their agenda entirely focused on enriching their donors and helping wealthy liberals with things like tax credits to buy electric vehicles, or student loan repayments that overwhelmingly went to higher income people like doctors and lawyers. So again, this is projection, and it's so important to remember the fact that the core tenets of this bill, tax cuts, shoring up our immigration system, and getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse that's destroying these safety net programs, are overwhelmingly popular.